and welcome to the Performer's Guide. My name is Kristen Railing, and thank you so much for joining me today. Today, we will be discussing the basics of business planning. Are you an entrepreneur who operates a small business without a plan? My guess is if that you're watching this video right now, you are one of many small business owners who is operating a business without a plan. Benjamin Franklin said, if you fail to plan, you plan to fail. And if you are a small business owner who is operating your business without a plan, it is actually statistically highly likely for your business to fail. And according to the U.S. Bureau of Labor, 20% of businesses fail within the first 2 years. 45% of businesses fail during the first 5 years. 65% of businesses fail within the first 10 years, and only 25% of businesses make it to 15 years or more. I've been a small business owner for over 10 years. The first business that I started, Circus Mafia, was at the 10-year mark when I sold it. And I'm pretty confident it'll make it to the 15-year mark. The Performer's Guide is technically in its second year of business and is still currently operationally thriving and making more income each year. Oh, so I also don't have it on the slides here, but we are currently in a pandemic, right? We're in an economic recession. And this is actually statistically one of the best times to start a business. And when you look at times like the Great Depression, more small businesses were started during that time than any other. And it's because there's actually a lot more opportunities for small businesses right now than ever before to get funding and gain assistance to start their business. And so sometimes it seems silly, oh, why would I start a business during a pandemic when the world is in upheaval? But statistically, it's actually more likely to have a thriving business to start a thriving business during this time, ironically enough. Also, one thing I want to talk about here before I go on is what a failing business is as well. I think there's a misconception about what a failing business is. And it's not even a business that doesn't make money. Like if you have to close your business because it just stopped working, that's still considered a successful business as long as you're not in debt to loan sharks or the bank in a way that's crippling where you have to take out bankruptcy or other loans. But if you are able to just close the book on a business at any time, it's considered still a successful business. And so these statistics specifically say fail. And I think that that's something to really note here as well. And it's different also than just not being able to function too, which I think isn't statistically shown here. So if you're going to start a small business, it's really important to have a foundation laid for yourself. And oftentimes people think that the foundation is just creating your business name and then maybe or maybe not even filing the business paperwork. But there's actually a wide variety of sections of your business that is important to dust off, look at, and make sure that you have just at least a little bit formulated in your mind before starting your business, which are the name of your business, the structure of your business model, your business plan, and they are different, and we're going to go over the differences between the business model and the business plan, business partnerships, filing your business, deciding whether or not you need to become an agency, getting your patents, trademarks, or copyrights, and then also funding your business, which is, again, quite often a forgotten step for most of my clients and people that I know who own businesses. they're stuck in the self-funding of their business. And so that's honestly one of the main reasons why I started the Performer's Guide, was to help people get out of the hourly wage, trading our time energy for money energy into finding funders for our businesses and getting paid in larger sums. Okay. First things first, choosing that business name. All right. I think that a lot of people could use a rebrand with their name. I'm going to be honest. And so a lot of people come to me ready to go on tour, ready asking for marketing. And usually, not usually, but sometimes it comes back to first, oh, we might need to rebrand or create a name that actually works for your business. And you want to think and remember that your client doesn't have a great memory. They're not particularly great at spelling always. Like, I'm even just thinking of myself, right? I misspell words. I mispronounce things. I forget things. So if you have a business name that is difficult to spell, difficult to say, not memorable, has a K instead of a C or a Z instead of an S, you're going to lose a lot of your business growth potential. Your name also, you don't want to limit yourself too much with your name. If I was portlandmentor.com, that's not going to get me very much work, right? Because it limits me to the city, and it also doesn't really convey too much meaning exactly about what I do. And then you also want to be careful. A lot of times people think they're conveying meaning, but it's only something meaningful to them. And it's like an inside joke, but other people don't get it and won't remember it. And so you want to make sure it's meaningful to the masses. And before you choose, you want to do a search in both the Secretary of State to see if it's been filed as a business already, but then also under like GoDaddy, do an internet search and see if the web domain already exists. If it does, just, you got to move on. And a lot of times people try to copy a name, like, oh, I'm just gonna, you're going to lose a lot of people who are accidentally going to go to a different business that sounds similar under the name. Okay. And other ways, they'll do your trademark search and see if someone already has that name trademarked or a phrase or something that you're utilizing before you pick your business name. And so I actually went through this with the Performer's Guide. It used to be called Get Your Act Together. The domain name, $3,000. I was like, maybe I'll change it. So then it was going to be the business of performing. But then there was another guy in the UK who's Make Performing Your Business was his business name. And he was like, oh, it's kind of similar. Could you not do that? And so had I done an internet search before I had gone down this avenue, might have saved me some time. But I think that also that was kind of the stepping stones I needed to do to get to this name. But the Performer's Guide wasn't my first business name. I'll just say that. It was actually, this is the third business name that this was. And this one stuck. And people go, wow, the Performer's Guide blew up. It didn't. I had 4 names and I've been running this business for 4 years under a different brand that didn't catch, really. And the second I changed it, it was like, boom. So I think that for a lot of people, if your business isn't booming, the name could be the reason. And just a simple name change can really change the way your clients view the business, right? So next, we want to think about our business structure. And I think that a lot of people don't even know what a business structure is, because when I ask them, oh, what's your business structure? They go, what? And there's basically 4 that you choose in our profession. There's others, but for the most part, these are the 4 that we, for the most part, pick. You got your sole proprietorship, which is you. You could be a general partnership, you and one other person, you and 5 other people. Those are both unincorporated businesses. Then you can incorporate and be in either LLC or a nonprofit. And both of those have their pros and cons for liability, taxes, funding. They all have their different benefits. And so you want to really map out what's your goal here before starting, because if you're starting a nonprofit, that's going to be a different route than if you're going down a sole proprietorship. Okay.
Kristen, I'm sorry to interrupt you again. Can you check the waiting room? Madeline's been trying to get in for a while.
Oh, interesting. Okay, that's great to know that it stops the notifications for me for that. Once I start the screen share. Oh my. That's a waiting room. Great. Perfect. Okay, great. They're all in now. Thank you, Nola. And I have that up now. Okay, great. So the next thing that we want to think about is our business model and our business plan. So at this point, we have the name of our business and we understand the structure of our business. And now we're going to want to basically create the form of the business, okay? And one of the biggest questions I get asked when we start going down this route is, what's the difference between a business model and a business plan? And I think most people have written either a business model or a business plan, which is really funny. When I went to business school, I learned both, but I didn't learn the business model canvas, which is the way I'm teaching it now. I had another client who showed me that way, but most people do just the plan. And then there's a lot of people who go to college, business school, who've just done the model. And so what's the difference? And the best way I can describe it is that your business model is the train model, right? Like, have you ever been to a train museum where that got the little train track model? That's your business model, is the little train. Like, okay, the track is the business plan that the train operates on. And so you can't have a really cool train museum without the trains and the track, right? If you just had the track there with no train and vice versa, it's not the complete experience. And so that's kind of the best metaphor I can think of for the business model and the business plan. So you want to start with the business model and generating the way that your business operates and the way that it is interfacing with your clients. And then the plan is your future projections of how that model is going to financially provide for you over time through your strategy. So oftentimes people just jump right into their business plan and then they go, wow, this is really difficult and emotionally overwhelming for a lot of people, because they haven't even started with the model and don't even understand how their business operates. And for me and for everyone I've run this through, the business model is generally a more emotionally easier time for people, because it's something that's already within yourself. You're like putting onto paper the thing that you're thinking about. It's going to be this. I'm operating that way. These are my clients, and this is what it is. And then once you get to the plan, it's like, oh, okay, so what are my financial projections? What's my marketing plan? You know, what's my exit plan? And that's where it kind of starts getting, in my mind, fun. But for some people, you know, you kind of start hitting that emotional, like, oh, gotta have a plan now. So that's what we're going to work on here together today. Okay. First, we got the business model. Your business model has 9 key components to it. And it is the canvas, which I'm going to show in the next slide, which is basically the puzzle frame of it. And for people who are really visual, it's an excellent way to take your business model and put it onto what's called a canvas. And then you have your value proposition, which is also canvassed. And so you get 2 templates that you can really actively write on to help you formulate your business model. Then you have your channels, your customer relationships, your revenue streams, your key resources, your key partnerships, key activities, and your cost structure. So what you want to do is, boop, there we go. You can either screenshot this if you're on a tablet or your phone. I'm also going to be providing links that you can download this canvas. You can also just literally type in business model canvas into Google and a blank one will pop up. This isn't something I created, but is very useful for you or anybody starting a business, okay? So here it is, the business model canvas, and let me pull up my notes for it. It's essentially divided into two sections, which is the business itself and then the way it interfaces with the client. And the middle ground for the whole thing in this canvas is the value proposition. So you see how the value proposition is in the middle there? So that's sort of the thing that straddles the entire business model canvas and is essentially the most important part of your entire business, this canvas, and should be the first thing we really want to think about when we're starting a business, okay? And you've got your proposition. The proposition is you're trying to proposition somebody for money, essentially. You're in a proposal, you're propositioning them, and you're trying to provide value to the client. And so the value proposition is, what value are you providing to your client? And if you start here, you're really going to have an understanding of how to pitch to the client, how to find the right client, and how to really find the best match for energetically for you and your client. And so if you have a notebook, I want you to really just start right there with your value proposition, and there's more questions to be answered with it, but just essentially think, what problem am I trying to solve for my client, or what service am I giving to them? What need am I filling? What is it that you're offering to your client at all? And sometimes it's shocking, people don't know. They're just like, oh, I have this art piece that I want to give. How does that, convey value to this person? And everything does. Art, a mug, this phone, a cup, like anything has value. You just have to convey it to them. And so the more you can convey your value, the more easily you're going to be able to proposition sales from them. Does that make sense? So then we jump to the right side, which is, who are we trying to interface with? Who are the customers? Okay. And so you have this product or service, and you understand its value, and you're trying to give it to whom? The customer. And the most important thing you want to think about here is who your customer segments are individually, but then most importantly, what is your relationship with those customers? And many people who operate businesses, and especially if you look at like big business and corporations, it's about getting customers, leads, getting the most numbers, getting sales, numbers. Customers can tell when they're a number, and when you're just trying to interface with them as a customer for a potential sale. And so instead of operating your business and how do I get sales? How do I market? How do I get more customers? How do you get more valuable relationships with people? Who do you already have valuable relationships with, and how can you create a co-created experience with that person that generates income for both of you, that is in ethical alignment for both of you? And that's one of my favorite segments, because most people are thinking about customers, and I spend that whole time talking about relationships. And they're like, what? So that's a really fun module. Once you know the And it doesn't even have to, you don't even have to at this point know the exact product or service. You just know that there's a value that you're giving to whom? The customer. And then you create a relationship with them. So now that I have a relationship with you, I have a relationship with most of you who are even watching this video right now. Now you want to think of, okay, what are the channels that I can use to continue my relationships with these customers between sales so that I can strengthen the relationship bond and make it easier for consistent sales to come in. And so when I ask people, great, what are your channels? They're like, So you want to think about how you're taking in your sales, okay? Scrolling my notes here, relationships. Okay, so once you have defined your customer, you understand the way you relate with them and the channels that you use to do so. And then once you have that channel outlined, you're able to proposition your value to that person. Then you need to think about how you're going to generate revenue from that interaction. Okay, so you want to think about your revenue streams. And it's important to have multiple revenue streams. Currently,
I have a question.
Great. Questions will be at the end.
Oh, okay. Sorry.
Yes, that's okay. So then but currently I have Patreon. I can take payments through PayPal, cash, payment plans. You want to understand credit cards. What are your revenue streams? How often is it subscription based, one-time payment plan, and what are the streams to be able to take in the revenue, correct? So, got someone in the waiting room here. I probably should need a moderator for this. Hold on. My apologies. So that's the right side of the model, okay? That's the way you're interfacing with your client. Then if you notice, the value proposition is split in half. So on the other half of it, you have the way the business itself operates. So, and that's 3 parts. You've got your partnerships, the activities themselves, and then the resources it takes to operate the business. So first we want to talk about our key partnerships. No, let's talk about those closer to the end. First, you have your key activities. And so this is the steps it takes to operate a business. And so if you're a merchandise business, those steps would be, purchasing your bulk items, then storing the bulk items, then creating those items. Then you have your merchandise, and those need to be stored somewhere. And then you have the sales transactions, the shipping. So you have to literally just write out all the key activities that you're doing. For the performer's guide, it'd be like, I'm writing, I have to make videos, I do the website, I have to make phone calls, I have to do emails. And so you just literally just write out every single activity that you do in your business and literally map it out, because at first you might be the only person doing those activities. But then when we talk about partnerships, you can do what's called a roles matrix, where you can start to sort of elongate and look, okay, wait, who does what role and who can start fulfilling these activity roles and start to take weight off of your shoulders, whether financial or time-wise. Then you've got all your resources. So that could be time resources, financial resources, social resources. There's a lot of resources that we can utilize. What are they? Where are they? Who are they? What can we get from them? And once we have an idea of the activities and the resources that are needed, then we can start to formulate partnerships that we can utilize to, like I said, start to alleviate some of these burdens off of our business. Most people in our industry a lot of them are really trying to operate as a sole business. I am currently right now just an individual operating every single aspect of my business. But once you start to scale, you realize I need partnerships, and what type of partnerships are going to be important for you. And a lot of times people just jump right to business partnerships, but there's other ones that we're going to go over here in a minute of different types of partnerships to utilize for your business. So once you've got your activities, you understand your resources, you've got an idea of the types of partnerships that you need to acquire to have a fully functioning business, you can start to map out what the cost actually is for your business. And again, I go more into depth in finances in my financial programs in personal financing. But in this, we're talking about like the overall structural cost of a business. And oftentimes when you really start listing out the activities and the resources you need to really thrive as a business, the cost starts going up and we realize we're not charging what we actually need to function as a business over the long time. And this is why we go back to, this is why a lot of businesses start failing after 5 years, 10 years, is because they don't actually have that foundational math set up. This is actually what it costs to run this business. Anything else I want to say about that? I think that's pretty good. So we're going to go in a little bit deeper into the value proposition canvas. Again, you can screenshot this. You can also type in value proposition canvas into Google, and I will provide links to people who come to the webinar who are able to access the links. And if you can't, go ahead and message me and I can help provide you with all these links to get you started. So this is the value proposition canvas. And again, see how it's split left to right. You've got the product, which is your internal part of your business, and then you have the customer and how that product interfaces with the customer. Most of us have an artist mindset. I've created art or a business, and now I want to present it to the world. But then it falls flat in the market and they're not sure why. And oftentimes they feel, it's because I created a bad business, or I'm not a good business owner, or I can't do this, or this isn't for me. But most of the time it's just because they haven't gone that extra deep layer of, what am I really solving here? What problem am I solving in society? That's really it. And so there's 3 ways that you can create benefit to the world: through something that people want, they need, or you're removing something that they fear. And a lot of marketing and news products, they go on the fear-based, right? You're going to be ugly if you don't buy this makeup. You're going to be wrinkly if you don't buy this serum. Your hair is going to fall out if you don't do this. You're going to be this if you don't that, right? Those are fear-based. I try to go with needs-based. I feel like mine's a needs-based. Like, hey, do you need this? I have it. I'm here if you need it. And then want. That's where art, a lot of art comes in. People just want it. And so a lot of times I can tell I hit a nerve with some people when I talk about getting out of the artist mindset and into the business mindset. And they're like, well, I'm an artist. Great. So you focus on the want. People don't necessarily need everything that we're providing. And so we don't need to worry too much about the need or the fear. You can focus on want, or you can focus on needs. Or if you're an empowerment coach, focusing on the fears, there's a lot of fears that we're all dealing with right now. And so your service could really tap into the heart of people's fears. We just want to make sure we're using that one ethically, right? So then again, I don't know why it does it like this, because in my mind, the whole thing should be mirrored, because you start on the right and then you do the left. So you think about, who's my market? What do they want? What do they need? What do they fear? And then you create benefits and features that provide an experience, that make them feel something. And in the end, the whole point about your business is to make people have an experience that they want to experience over and over through the way that you've interfaced your business, through the channels and through your streams, okay? So you literally just write it out. So what do they want? What do they fear? What do they need? What is my business? What are the benefits and the features and the experiences that I can create to fill in the gaps for what these people are missing currently? And then the most important is to think, what are the substitutes? And I think that sometimes we want to not think about our competitive market and just be like, no, this is it. No, there's no substitutes. There's always a substitute. And we're going to go over this more in the business plan of your competitive edge here. But if we can start thinking early, what are your substitutes? Then you can start looking at your substitutes and pulling ideas from them as well. Dun, 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 dun. Now you've got the model of your business created. You understand what it is. This is a big step for a business to just fully understand, what am I offering? Who's it for? How does it serve people? How am I going to interface with them? And once I've interfaced with them, how are they going to monetarily exchange their finances with me so that I can have a functioning business? And what does it take to run that functioning business? Who can help me with it, right? Then we want to go into the plan, because we understand what our business is. There's no fancy canvas for the plan, but it's laid out just very similarly. There's 9 sections to a business plan that we want to really think about. The executive summary is always listed first, but you really want to do it last, because it's the summary of everything that you've just written. And it's sometimes helpful to start there if you just want to kind of start to get out a little summary. But I see sometimes people get stuck with the executive summary if they start with it first. So we'll do that last, put it first. And you really want to start with the company overview. I think that is the easiest for people, because it's basically everything that you've just written from your business model reviewed in your company overview. Then you want to do an industry analysis and a competitive analysis. This is probably the hardest part about the entire plan, I think. Most people don't have a clear understanding of their industry, especially if it's a new business, how to define the market and how to analyze the market potential. How much money can I even make in this market? And a lot of times people are in a market that if they just shift it a little bit and change the trajectory, they might actually make a lot more money. If they had done an analysis, it would really help. And what's the difference between the industry analysis and the competitive analysis? That's a common question I get asked. The industry is the industry as a whole. The industry is the potential buyers and their psychological behavior. The competitive analysis is my competitors, whether direct or indirect, who could be potential substitutes, in which case we've already thought about it a little bit in our business model, that are competing with us. And so when you do the industry analysis, you go, okay, this is the industry, this is how many people exist within it, and here is the potential of earnings. And then you kind of look to the side and go, okay, now these are my competitors. How much are they earning? And A, can also give you a reflection of what the true market's potential is, and can also give you a starting point to analyze how to compete against them in the market. So I would say hands down, those two, most confusing, most difficult section, because you're really looking outside of yourself in doing math that feels sometimes ethereal, because you're pulling numbers and then analyzing them against each other. So if you're doing this alone, make sure to be extra gentle on yourself during this time, because it can be a head scratcher. So notice the products and services. We've gotten pretty far into our business before we have even defined the products and services. And I think that this is really important to know that you can have a business, you can build a business, you can build a brand, create a name, a look, you can file your business, and you can still have no idea what it is you're serving, offering, or anything. And I think that a lot of times people get into their heads with, what am I offering? What is it? What is the cost? And they just jump right to the cost analysis, products and services, and just go for it. And I think that the products kind of come later, you know, even with the performer's guide. Like, I'm just barely really creating products and services. Like, I've always had the one-on-one calls, then I had a little bit of group coaching, but really now I'm starting to launch programs, books, online courses, and it's really a service and a product. But nobody really noticed that, because I had good branding and good marketing and good business plan that I was kind of just trudging away and going, all right, what am I doing with the services part? And then it comes, and then you've already got this beautiful business and this amazing industry and your market already created, and then you provide a service to them. Okay, so then we've got the marketing plan. And this feels ethereal to a lot of people, but there's really just only two ways we're marketing nowadays. We got social media marketing and you've got SEO marketing. And, you know, we still have our distribution, not distribution plan, but like flyers and that kind of marketing. But you want to have a plan with your marketing. Most people don't. Most people don't even have social media content calendar or know what their themes are or how they're marketing. They just know that they have a Facebook page and they post on it. So we want to make plans. And the more we can plan, the less we have to think. And I don't like thinking in my business, I'm going to be honest. I just like it all laid out, and then I just do the steps. Distribution plan is one that can sometimes be skipped for some people if they aren't operating like a factory service based, you know, if you're making props and physical services, you really want to have your distribution plan. It's very important because of your operational costs. But the distribution plan can be tied in with your business model. You should already sort of have an idea of the channels and the way that you're distributing your services. But the physical distribution plan is a little bit different. And then again, the operation plan, you should already have an idea. You should have already listed out what it needs to operate. And so you have the list of operations, and now you want to create a plan for that. How are you going to start integrating new people in or out? And that kind of leads into the management team. How are you going to start adding in new people so that you can slowly start to extract yourself from your business so that you can have a fully functioning business and then start a new business? That's my MO personally is like, okay, extract myself, create something. You don't want to fully extract yourself because it's your energy that people are buying into, but you want it to become a well-oiled machine. It's distributing, it's operating, you've got a nice management team. And then what's the exit strategy? And it's either a partial exit or full exit. And we're going to go over that in a second. But before we do the financial plan, again, I'd say this is one where people get a little hairy. They're like, oh, the financials. You got to have a plan, you know, that 5-year plan. And we're not always going to hit our numbers, but especially if you're trying to get funding, your donors are going to want to see a financial plan, because if you can't even show them that you have a plan, it's going to be very nerve-wracking for your funders to give you money. And if you don't have a good financial plan, I was just laughing about this with one of my other clients. You can't go back to a funder and go, I didn't do the math right, I actually need 10,000 more. That's not going to instill confidence in your partner or donor that you can have a functioning business if you can't do your financial plan correctly. But probably one of the most important pieces if you're going to have a business partnership in any way or try to get funding, which is my favorite personally. And then we have the exit strategy. I'd say 90% of businesses don't have an exit strategy. And if they've done a lot of this, they have no idea. It's like most relationships, they think this is forever. It's true love, me and this business. It's never gonna fail me. That might be true, but should I go back to the statistics from before? Most of them aren't for life. You got a changing market, you got personal changing interests, financial snafus. There's a lot of things that can happen in a business, and it's important to lay out what your financial options are. So most people's are crash and burn, just go for it, and then I'm gonna get burnt out financially, and then that's it. But there's a lot of options. I sold Circus Mafia for a good chunk of money. That's how I was able to start the Performer's Guide. If I didn't have a business plan, financial plan, and I had everything in place, then when it was time to sell it, it wasn't so difficult. It was still a 6-month to a year process to sell it, but all of the foundation was in place. And that's really like the heart of like, why are we doing this, is to have some sort of finish line, right? We're not just running like long distance, running forever. There's going to be stopping points. And this is my 3rd business, and I had smart plans for each exit strategy. This is the only one that I kind of think maybe this is a lifetime business, you know? But there's basically 3. You close, you crash and burn, or you sell it. So you just want to have an exit strategy. Business plan. So there's key business partnerships is a part of the business model, but I did want to touch on it a little bit more because I get asked this a lot. How do I get partnerships? Do you have any advice? And the first thing I want to reiterate to you is that you're in relationships with people, deep, intimate relationships, and you want to think of a partnership like a romantic relationship. And business partnership is like getting married. It is the exact same amount of intensity, of responsibility, of intimate knowledge of each other. And the business partnership is the pinnacle. Yet I see so many people, I'm going to start a business with this person. And I'd be like, I'm going to get married to this person I just went on a first date with. I'm like, what? Wait, there's so many other options in joint ventures, strategic alliance. You just might be in a supplier buyer. It might be a short-term project. So you want to think about your business partnerships before we jump right into signing paperwork with somebody. And, a few of my clients in this course right now are feeling the repercussions of what it was like to start a group project, have 5 people think that they are all providing equal content and energy, and then it all weighs onto this one person, and then everything crumbles on top of them, but you're not getting the control and the financial benefits of owning your own business. And so we want to make sure it's like, okay, how much control am I giving up for how much benefit? Then we can file our business. Again, notice we don't even need to file our business all the way up until this point. Most people, filing your business is not the first thing you need to do, but it is a very important part about your business. You can have a functioning business. It's not taking in very much money, while you're building up all the structure and getting your plan, or you can just start by filing a business and then doing your business plan. There's no real specific order, but for me, I prefer to have the model, have the plan, understand who I'm going to be working with before I file my business, so that I don't have to refile the business later. There's really 3 parts to filing your business. First part is filing your business tax license to the state, to the federal government, saying, hey, I'm a business, tax me on being a business owner. Then you have your DBA, which is your doing business as. When I started my business, it was Railing Incorporated, just like yours will be your last name incorporated if you don't have a DBA, which really is fine. You can still operate as your project name, but when it comes time to cashing a check, you're going to need a DBA to go to the bank, because the bank will just only take it from your name otherwise. And so if you have a project that people will be paying you a check to that name, you're definitely going to want to do a DBA, and you can do an umbrella with a bunch of different DBAs if you have a lot of projects, or you can just have one. For me, I am Railing Incorporated, doing business as the Performer's Guide. And so I can take in checks as Kristen Railing or the Performer's Guide. Then you've got your EIN or your TIN number, which is essentially the social security number for your business. And as you start to be a larger business, you have more liability, and you want that less attached to your personal name. And first step is, you don't always want to give away your social security number to applications and whatnot, to your employees and such. So and especially if you're hiring people, you got to have an EIN, TIN number. But if you're just like me, I'm not hiring anybody, I don't necessarily need it. But if I want to, for social security purposes, to extract that, I definitely need an EIN number. The EIN and the DBA are free. They are sometimes connected to the business tax license. Sometimes they're separate. Sometimes they're on different websites. If you need help filing your business, that's probably one of the biggest things I have been helping people with, because each state is different and it can be sometimes confusing. So you don't need to do the LLC or the nonprofit. You could just get away with filing your business tax license. Honestly, you could just get away with doing that, business tax license. And then you could take the second step, do a DBA. Then you can take the next step, EIN. And then the next step would be incorporating. And again, you can do this all at the same time as well. And when you do a limited liability corporation, that's incorporating. And that essentially just means you're extracting the business from yourself, and it kind of has this umbrella over it that protects your business from being sued, protects you from being sued from the business. Like if the Performer's Guide got sued by me giving bad legal advice, then if I owned a home, it wouldn't get taken away. They would just take from the business. if you do fire, if you do anything where someone could potentially sue you, you're definitely going to want to have a limited liability corporation. If you own a home, definitely want a limited liability corporation. Then you got the nonprofit. I'm going to be honest, the nonprofit paperwork is very intensive and there is a lot to it. I have all of the information that's needed for anybody that wants to start a nonprofit, but I always do a call with people beforehand because many times you can get away with fiscal sponsorship, and we're going to talk about this here in a minute. By partnering up with another nonprofit, it can usually get you going before you start your own nonprofit. And anybody that's watching this, if you're thinking, I'm ready to start a nonprofit, my suggestion to you is find another nonprofit that's already functioning and partner with them and see if they can help you get going, because most nonprofits are very excited to help other nonprofits get started, and it's helpful to kind of have the mama bird take you under your wing as the baby bird for starting your nonprofit. Once you filed your business, okay, I'm in this part right now too, is you want to think about your patents, your trademarks, and your copyrights. You want to have that extra layer of protection, and it's important to understand what the difference between the three are and what forms to fill out so that you can make sure that your name of your business or your phrases that are, you want trademarked, or your digital licensing and your information. And so that's kind of where I'm at. I'm at a little bit of like a loose spot right now because I haven't gotten all of my trademarks and my patents, right? So someone could, in theory, start another performer's guide and they don't have the patent to say, oh, like for instance, mentorship for the modern performer. I could trademark that so that nobody else could say those specific words, and so you want to think about that with your business. Is there something that's informational or a patent or something that you need to hold on to? I have a friend who started a company. It was like a mat company that has crystal gems in it, and she was making them from China, getting them shipped over, and somehow someone bought one, replicated it, and now there's like Chinese knockoff because she didn't have the correct international patents for this particular product. And so it's kind of a big one that a lot of times people overlook. Then my favorite part of this whole process, which is, why am I doing this? Why am I spending all this time writing my business model, writing my business plan, getting all these things when I could just operate as a business and not do any of this? And really the biggest answer I'd say is so that you can have more funding for your business. Look, close your eyes and think about how much money you have in your business bank account. Would you like more? I would, always. So if I'm a funder and thinking about giving someone money, I damn well want to know what their plan is, what the business is, what my return is, and who it is that I'm doing business with. So you want to have your business model and your business plan in place to help you get funding for your business. There's actually a lot of different ways to fund your business as well. Most people get stuck in self-funding. They just self-fund and they run themselves into the ground, and they, especially if you're a performer, you take a gig, you're probably not doing the math correctly, and then you're ended up paying for your costumes, your props, your travel, and what ends up happening is your finances go down and down and down and down. And then all of a sudden you're like, wait, I'm barely scraping by with this business. And when you get to that point, Many people just throw in the towel or get confused, but there's tons of different ways that we could be getting funding from our business. It doesn't have to be transactional, and it doesn't have to be us working a 9-to-5 job to fund our artistic endeavors. And I think I go in order from like least to most payback. And so first is donations. That's where I started with the Performer's Guide. Right when COVID hit, I just did a few fundraisers. Who would like to give me money so I can keep my business going? Do you like the business I'm doing? Please donate. I got it. I got lots of donations just from people who are watching and care about me and are interested in a no return donation. And so you have a few different kinds of them. The best is the angel donor, which is they just pop out of nowhere and they go, here's all the money you've asked for, no strings attached. I mean, that's like the best, right? And oftentimes the angel donor, maybe they don't even need the business model or the business plan, but once we get further down, they will. And I actually have had donors. I got a $3,000 donation a couple months ago, and he wanted to see a business model, and that was it. And he just wanted to make sure I had a functioning business to give him, that he was giving money to, essentially, and that it wasn't just me being like, give me money. Then you've got grants. I got so many grants from the COVID time, right? We had a PPP loan. It's called a loan, but it was really a grant. There's government grants, there's local grants, there's foundational grants. Grants are basically donations, but with just a little bit more steps to them. And you often hear of grant writers. So you can hire a grant writer. And grant writing is sort of its own beast. And you can have your entire business be funded by grant writing, but it takes up basically the same amount of time as working. It's basically its own job. So you can have a grant writing team to help you, or you find ones. And I kind of tend to do 3 or 4 grants a year. Grants are great because you get a large chunk and it gets you through the next few months while you do your project. So self-funding, donations, grants, no return expected, right? This money's just given. I mean, I guess for self-funding, you're kind of hoping to get a return, but with donations and grants, no return. Then once we get into the other ones, we're starting to get a return back. Investors, their return, they're either going to want part of your business or a financial return on investment, the ROI. And this is when you're going to really need a good financial plan for your investors to really map out, this is how much money I need. This is how long it's going to take me to spend it. This is how long it's going to take me to make it back. And these are the exact payments I'm going to make over time. I think a lot of times people get scared of the I put inventors. People get scared of the investor because there's a little bit more oversight and you gotta kind of work for it. At this point, when you're really crazy, this is when you're really stepping into the business game. Okay, I'm taking money and I better be sure I'm spending it correctly with my investments. I'm getting to the point where I want to maybe play the investor game. Then you've got the lenders, and this is often a confusing one. What's the difference between an investor and a lender? The lender is usually a bank, and the lender is usually not wanting your business, but the lender is going to want a higher return, and there's going to be less oversight. Then you have sponsors. I love sponsors and fiscal sponsors. They sound the same, but they're different. Sponsors, and there's many different types of sponsorships, can fund projects, they can fund specific events, they can fund your whole business, they can become monthly payments. I'm hoping to get sponsors for my videos for these when I start to really get my production value up to really help me fund videos. And so this is great if you're doing weekly podcast videos, anything where you've got this weekly overhead. You're like, oh, it'd be nice to have a sponsor and they can have their name added to your event. And then you have the fiscal sponsorship. This is different than the sponsor, and this goes back to the nonprofit organization. Nonprofit organizations offer what's called fiscal sponsorship, where it's kind of like the big brother, big sister program. The nonprofit organization links with a regular business, and you're able to tap into their sponsor list and use their name to write a grant, and then the money goes to the nonprofit, and then the nonprofit gives you the money and you just give them a percentage of the profit. That's where I got a lot of my money for Circus Mafia, is from grants and fiscal sponsorships and just finding other nonprofits and picking projects, filling out the forms, and then getting a few $1,000s to just kind of go through a few months to teach a free juggling workshop at Boys and Girls Club for 6 weeks or something. Then you've got crowdfunding, which is great right now. I feel like crowdfunding is really gaining traction with people, and it's great because we can all give a small amount to one person's business, help that get started, and then that person becomes a donor for another person and helps their business get started. And so if we can start to crowdfund each other's small businesses, then we really can start to have a fighting chance to get into the game of small business ownership. We got like Indiegogo, and oh my God, I'm totally spacing, like the crowdfunding platforms. And then I haven't even added the new one on here of like Patreon and the subscription model for your business. And so you can get people just to be paying you subscriptions in small increments to generate income. So people are paying a lot less than what they would normally, but you're generating a lot more income because you're able to scale the business through crowdfunding and subscriptions. Yeah? Homework! Are you ready for homework? Dun, 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 dun. I should call them activities. Okay, so this is the homework for new businesses. If you're watching this right now, we're going to reiterate. You want to choose a strong business name. You want to figure out what your business structure is. You want to write your business model, business plan, map out your partnerships. You want to file your business. Oh, I took out the agency licensing. We'll go over that in a second. You want to perhaps get your agency licensing, your patents, trademarks, and copyrights, and then funding your business. So if you're a performance agent and you are managing other people, some states require an agency licensing. And I'll say that many businesses are operating as an agency without the proper licensing. And if they got audited, they would have financial repercussions. If you live in California, New York, Las Vegas, Florida, I believe, and I think there's a few others, but I'm pretty sure those ones specifically, you need agency. And it's just another series of delightful paperwork that the government makes you go through so that you can manage other people. And so the difference between an agency and a troupe is the troupe is a unit and you're advertising for the unit, and then an agency is operating for other units and promoting them as their own separate unit. And so you need to be an agent to sort of move around the units as opposed to being your own unit. Does that make sense? So screenshot this or take a list or write a list for yourself. These are the basic steps, in my opinion, of getting your business started. Good luck. Thank you so much for joining me on this journey. My name again is Kristen Railing, and this is the basics of business planning. If you have any questions or need any assistance getting your business started, please feel free to message me directly and we can set up a free business audit and we can do a free call together and I can help you get your business started. Again, thank you so much for joining me.